It is the first time that so many demonstrations have been held in the same day on the housing issue, up to 40 in all of Spain, that know that there is no other way. A few marches called by the Union of Tenants and Tenants that wants to unify the protests of recent months. Rent strikes are here to stay. Today, the 5th of April of 2025, the end of the housing business begins, supported by different entities and neighborhood associations of each territory. What we are seeing is that it is a cross-cutting problem that no longer only affects students, but affects the entire population and all the people who share the same problem.
Working families have to make an inhuman effort.
The truth is that I see that I never become independent at the pace we are going.
We need to act on housing.
Although in each community and in each personal case, the housing crisis shows us different faces, from the student from Salamanca, who, despite studying and working, can hardly pay the rent.
They sell us real assholes for millions.
Even workers like Josefina, who despite having 2 jobs, is desperate because she is being expelled from the island of La Palma. They are asked for a studio without rooms up to 1,000 odd euros. It's crazy what we're getting at. I'm thinking about going outside and everything. And that's without forgetting increasingly touristic cities like Santiago de Compostela, where the complaint is also not new. There are more and more tourist apartments. Arab tourism is completely eating up the opportunities we have to live. Also in the capital, young people like her are demonstrating for the first time in the face of high prices. I have a very decent job with very good conditions. I can't afford a rent and live alone. And basically, it's just that this keeps going up and up. An image that has been repeated in San Sebastian, Malaga, and many other cities in Spain. Not in vain. It's a real problem. Housing is the first problem for Spaniards. Doctors from all over Spain are demonstrating here in Madrid to reject the draft of the new Framework Health Statute. They ask that the guards be even shorter. They will already be 17 hours, but they ask that they be voluntary and compute for retirement. Also that the weekly rest hours are respected, and that a specific professional category is created that includes their particularities from the ministry. They insist that the Marcos Statute, the one that sets the basic rules and does not contemplate, for example, remuneration. They also assure that the text is still in the negotiation phase. The organizers assure that they will go on strike if their demands are not excused.
From the issue of guards to the ordinary working day and, of course, the equalization with other levels of what the health system is, that do not have the training that we have.
We have different conditions, different characteristics, and I think we deserve something different. Our need for rest is overlooked. Josmar accounts the hours on call that he has done throughout his life. He calculates that they would be the equivalent of 3 years that do not count towards retirement.
24 to 32 hours in a row. It means for your mental as well as physical health, because it makes you suffer that.
In the draft of the new statute that proposes health, the guards are reduced from 24 to 17 hours and remain mandatory. Shortening them was a historical demand of the sanitary workers. For many, like Carmen, they are still many. I have 3 children, and it is very difficult to reconcile. The only legal way to reduce your number of guards is to ask for a reduction in working hours. When you ask for a reduction in working hours, your salary is less than half. Carmen makes up for it with a few hours in private, something that according to the draft law would be prohibited for service chiefs. Communities could also demand a 5-year exclusivity for residents who have trained in public health. There are not going to be people who want to do the residency in the hospitals of certain communities, because they are not going to want to stay there. They have been trained for 12 years and demand the creation of a specific professional category that compensates for the training and responsibility they assume. We do not want to be against the working conditions of others. We simply want our working conditions to be what we ask for. Irene attends us during a break from her work. Just the rest hours are another great vindication. Due to a change of some guard or something similar to vacation periods, we have to cover the absences of the companions. You're almost doing 90 hours of work. The new framework statute, which is still being negotiated, would require 36 hours of rest a week. Doctors ask they be really effective. Trump has only been in the White House for 3 months and has already caused a planetary tsunami with the tariff war. His Liberation Day is the biggest upheaval of the International Commercial Board since the Second World War. In this unprecedented scenario, the European Union is looking for its strategy.
The first and the one that everyone thinks about is retaliation. I would say that it should be done, if it is done very surgically and with a lot. With a very cool head and with a lot of care. Getting into a trade war means we all lose.
Brussels is betting on negotiation with Washington, but is taking a new approach. He does not rule out the counterattack. Next Wednesday, he expects the 27 to give the go-ahead to a list of products to which he will apply tariffs, in response to the United States' 25% levy on steel and aluminum imports. The European strategy also involves extending other commercial ties. On Friday, the summit was held with 5 Central Asian countries. We have launched the new strategic alliance, says the President of the European Commission. A trade agreement is already being sought with India before the end of the year. The association with South Africa is underway, and it remains for the 27 to ratify the agreement with Mercosur.
It is possible that this will favor the ratification process and firm the ratification of the European Union-Mercosur agreement, and the European Union to having agreements with almost all the countries or blocs of Latin America. One can think of something even more ambitious and profound. The problem with these solutions, good thing they are real, we have to pursue them, is that their impact is going to materialize in the medium term.
In this law of the strongest, there are still no clear winners. At the moment, it's time to cushion the blow. In the countries of Southeast Asia, the tariffs imposed by Trump have fallen like a jug of cold water, 46% in the case of Vietnam. It is the main production center of large companies such as Nike. Last year, it produced half of the footwear and almost 30% of the clothing there, and now sees its shares falling. Brands such as Apple, Intel, or Coca-Cola are not saved either. The factories are there and relocating them is difficult, but future investments will have to be considered, says this expert. Although the American president has already announced that he is in talks with the Vietnamese authorities to reach an agreement, those who are still on edge, without the room for maneuver of big companies, are entrepreneurs like Anjali. He has been selling tea in New York for more than a decade and sees his business in danger. If I am forced to give up products or close, I do not know where I will go account. He does not understand how this tariff policy can help the United States if it hurts small businesses. Nor does this farmer in Missouri, a state governed by the Republicans, understand Trump's movement. I feel like he's being very overbearing and careless in implementing measures without much thought, Bryant says. She is worried about the purchases of equipment or fertilizers that she will have to make the rest of the year, and how these tariffs that even they are not spared will affect in the future. These are the consequences of the impact of the Russian missile on Cryboy Rock, a hole in the ground and shrapnel in the walls. There are about 20 dead and 60 injured, including several children. Burying children is the hardest thing, Olga says. This morning, the neighbors have improvised this tribute. Moscow insists the attack was aimed at military positions. There's nothing like that here, says Alexander. Just houses. All Russian promises end in drones, bombs, and artillery, the Ukrainian president has said. Diplomacy means nothing to them. These images are from an industrial facility in the Russian region of Mordovia, about 600 kilometers from Moscow. According to Russian media, the target of Ukraine was a fiber optic factory. Russia has reported 14 attacks on its energy facilities, despite the truce banning it. Regarding the deployment of troops on the ground promoted by France and the United Kingdom, Zelensky has assured that the plan will be ready in a month. The objective, to monitor compliance with a future ceasefire.